Nietzsche's vision in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a philosophical exploration. Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, first published between 1883 and 1885, is one of his most iconic and challenging works. Written as a philosophical novel and structured in parables, it presents many of Nietzsche's most significant ideas, such as the Übermensch, overman, eternal recurrence, the will to power, and his critique of traditional morality, particularly Christian values. The work follows the fictional character of Zarathustra, modeled after the Persian prophet Zoroaster, as he journeys through various landscapes and engages with humanity to share his philosophy. This summary will explore the key concepts in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, explain their relevance to modern life, and address the editorial issues surrounding its publication, particularly the role of Nietzsche's sister, Elisabeth Förster Nietzsche, in shaping Nietzsche's legacy. One of the foundational ideas in Thus Spoke Zarathustra is the proclamation that God is dead, a theme Nietzsche had introduced earlier in The Gay Science. This idea represents the collapse of traditional religious and metaphysical beliefs that had grounded European morality for centuries. Key quote: God is dead. God remains dead. And we have killed him. Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book I, The Madman. Explanation: Nietzsche's declaration of God's death symbolizes the breakdown of religious authority and the moral certainties associated with it. In the modern world, scientific advancement, secularism, and skepticism had eroded faith in the Christian God. Without a divine moral lawgiver, Nietzsche argued, humanity is faced with the existential crisis of creating new values to live by. Example: in contemporary society, the decline of organized religion in many parts of the world, along with increasing moral pluralism, reflects Nietzsche's observation. Individuals and communities are often left to navigate complex moral landscapes without the clear direction once provided by religion. Everyday relevance: the death of God challenges individuals to take responsibility for their own moral decisions and meaning-making. It encourages existential reflection on how to live a meaningful life in the absence of absolute truths or external moral authorities. This is seen today in the rise of secular humanism, and various existential philosophies that seek to address life's purpose without relying on religious doctrines. Perhaps the most famous concept in Thus Spoke Zarathustra is the Übermensch, Nietzsche's vision of a higher type of human being who creates their own values and lives beyond conventional morality. The Übermensch represents the future of humanity, a goal for individuals to strive towards. Key quote: I teach you the overman. Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him? Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book I, Prologue. Explanation: the Übermensch embodies the ideal of self-overcoming, rejecting traditional religious and moral values that emphasize meekness, humility, and submission. Instead, the Übermensch creates and lives by their own values, embracing life's challenges, chaos, and suffering as essential to growth and empowerment. Example: consider figures like artists, scientists or innovators who push the boundaries of human potential, such as Leonardo da Vinci or Elon Musk. Their willingness to defy societal expectations and create new paradigms in their fields reflects the Übermensch spirit. They do not conform to inherited values but instead create and live by their own rules. Everyday relevance: the concept of the Übermensch inspires individuals to seek self-overcoming in their lives. Rather than accepting mediocrity or conforming to societal norms, Nietzsche challenges people to realize their full potential through creativity, courage, and self-discipline. It is an existential call to live authentically, embracing both life's highs and lows in the process of becoming something greater. Critique: critics argue that the Übermensch could lead to elitism or nihilism, where certain individuals feel justified in imposing their values on others. Additionally, some interpretations suggest that the idea might encourage ruthless ambition without moral accountability. However, these critiques often overlook Nietzsche's insistence that the Übermensch must also embrace compassion, creativity, and responsibility. The idea of eternal recurrence is another central theme in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Nietzsche presents it as a thought experiment to challenge how one lives their life. Key quote: "This life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once again and innumerable times more." Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book 3, The Convalescent. Explanation: eternal recurrence is the idea that everything in life, every action, every decision, will be repeated infinitely, in exactly the same way, for eternity. Nietzsche poses this idea as a test: would you be able to embrace your life and its every moment, even its suffering and mistakes, if you knew you would have to relive it endlessly? If the answer is yes, then you are living in accordance with the highest form of life affirmation. Example: imagine a person deciding whether to pursue a particular career path. The concept of eternal recurrence asks them to reflect deeply on whether this choice is something they could embrace for eternity. If not, it may suggest that they are not living authentically or pursuing their true potential. Everyday relevance: eternal recurrence encourages individuals to live deliberately and fully, making decisions that reflect their true desires and values. It prompts deep reflection on how one spends their time, encouraging people to embrace life as it is, rather than wishing for something different. In a broader sense, it pushes for a life that one would be proud to relive indefinitely. Critique: some critics, such as Arthur Danto, have questioned whether the idea of eternal recurrence is meant to be taken literally or merely as a metaphor for life affirmation. Others argue that the notion might lead to hedonism, or extreme individualism. However, Nietzsche's emphasis on eternal recurrence is more about fostering a deep appreciation of life, regardless of its interpretation as literal or symbolic. Thus Spoke Zarathustra also touches on the concept of the will to power, a central idea in Nietzsche's philosophy. While Nietzsche never fully systematized this concept in Zarathustra, it forms the foundation of his later thought. Key quote: "Where I found the living, there I found the will to power." Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book 2, On Self-Overcoming. Explanation: the will to power is the fundamental drive underlying all life. It is the desire to grow, assert oneself, and dominate one's surroundings, not necessarily through physical power or domination over others, but through creativity, self-overcoming, and the expression of one's potential. For Nietzsche, the will to power is not about survival but about flourishing and asserting one's existence in a meaningful way. Example: in modern society, people often channel their will to power through various forms of personal or professional growth. A scientist striving to uncover new truths, a musician composing groundbreaking works, or an athlete pushing their physical limits all embody the will to power by seeking to express and assert their full potential. Everyday relevance: the will to power can be seen in the human drive to overcome obstacles, achieve goals, and continually strive for self-improvement. Whether in personal development, creative endeavors, or professional achievements, the will to power is a fundamental force that encourages individuals to transcend their limitations and grow. Critique: Nietzsche's concept of the will to power has sometimes been misinterpreted, particularly during the rise of fascism in the 20th century, as a justification for authoritarianism and the imposition of force. However, Nietzsche's idea is more nuanced, emphasizing personal growth and creativity rather than domination over others. Throughout Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche offers a critique of Christianity, which he saw as a life-denying religion that promoted weakness, humility, and submission, values he associated with what he called slave morality. Nietzsche contrasted this with master morality, which affirms life, strength, and creativity. Key quote: "Your soul shall be what you choose for it to be, a Christian. Or free." Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book 4, The Drunken Song. Explanation: Nietzsche believed that Christianity, with its emphasis on meekness, guilt, and an afterlife, devalued the present world and human life. He argued that Christian morality elevated suffering and submission as virtues, while condemning strength, pride, and creativity as sinful. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch represents the rejection of Christian slave morality in favor of a life-affirming master morality. Example: consider modern ethical debates about the value of altruism versus self-assertion. Nietzsche would critique certain forms of altruism that demand self-sacrifice or deny personal fulfillment, seeing them as part of the slave morality that prioritizes weakness over strength. In contrast, someone who prioritizes personal growth and self-expression while still respecting others might embody master morality. Everyday relevance. Nietzsche's critique encourages individuals to reflect on the moral values they inherit from society and religion. It invites a questioning of whether these values promote life and growth or whether they constrain personal potential. In a modern world with increasing emphasis on individual freedom, Nietzsche's ideas resonate with those who seek to live authentically and embrace their creative power. Critique. Nietzsche's attack on Christianity has been heavily criticized, especially by religious scholars who see his rejection of Christian values as overly simplistic and reductionist. Moreover, Nietzsche's binary distinction between master and slave morality has been criticized as lacking nuance, as many of the values he condemned, for example, compassion, humility, can also contribute to human flourishing. Like the will to power, Thus Spoke Zarathustra was impacted by the editorial interventions of Nietzsche's sister, Elizabeth Förster Nietzsche. After Nietzsche's mental breakdown in 1889, Elizabeth gained control over his literary estate. As a fervent nationalist and anti-Semite, Elizabeth edited and curated Nietzsche's works, shaping his legacy in ways that often conflicted with his original intentions. Controversy. Elizabeth's efforts to align Nietzsche's philosophy with German nationalism and, later, with the Nazi regime, were particularly egregious. For instance, she promoted the idea that the Übermensch concept supported Aryan racial superiority, despite Nietzsche's explicit denunciation of antisemitism and nationalism. Critique. Quote, Nietzsche scholar Walter Kaufmann criticized Elizabeth's editorial role, writing, Elizabeth Förster Nietzsche's manipulations of her brother's writings are among the most notorious falsifications in the history of philosophy. Nietzsche, philosopher, psychologist, Antichrist, 1950. Thanks to modern scholarship, Nietzsche's original works have been restored, but the distortions introduced by his sister remain a critical issue in understanding the true nature of Nietzsche's philosophy. Thus Spoke Zarathustra offers a rich and challenging vision of life, pushing readers to reconsider inherited moral values, embrace personal growth, and strive towards their own creative potential. Nietzsche's critique of traditional religion and morality resonates with modern existential concerns, where individuals are tasked with creating their own meaning in an often chaotic world. However, Nietzsche's ideas, especially those surrounding the Übermensch and the will to power, must be approached with care, particularly in light of the editorial distortions introduced by his sister.